Welcome to Crossing Darkness, a podcast about the role-playing games set in the world of darkness and other tabletop games. We're broadcasting over Twitch every Sunday, 7 p.m. Central Time, and are open to answering questions during the show. This is episode 3. This is season 3, episode 6, A Personal History of Conventions. I'm your host, Frozen Fallout, and my co-host is Motorori, who helped me create this podcast as well as a 40-person, 4-table Gen Con event. How's it going this week?
Pretty good. Given the nature of my job, I actually haven't had to work a lot in the past week, so that's nice.
Yeah, my job is going through a major conversion to an enterprise kind of setup, so lots of stuff kind of going on right now. So, this week we're going to be talking about the personal history that we have with conventions. So let's just go ahead and kind of start this off with the person that's been going to conventions the longest. What was your first convention?
All right, so I actually had to kind of figure this out. I'm fairly certain that the first convention that I went to was Gen Con in 1999. So I grew up in Racine, Wisconsin, which is the county just south of Milwaukee. And anybody who knows about Gen Con knows that up until 2002, Gen Con was in Milwaukee. So I was friends in high school with a lot of the, let's just put it, the people that wore black a lot. And I think they had tried to get me to play D&D a few times before this. And so it wasn't so much that I was into gaming. It was more that I was, going to all my friends, and I was the one with the car, which seems to be a theme in my life still today. But yeah, so, man, Gen Con in 1999 was not as big as it is today. Suffice it to say, it was still the biggest gaming convention of the year for the gaming industry. So there's tons of people there. I think I saw Gary Gygax once, but somebody had to say who he was to me and say, like, that's Gary Gygax. And I was like, who's that? Well, he created D&D. It's like, I mean, obviously I know a lot more about him now, but yeah, 1999.
What you do a lot at, what was your like major thing that you went there to go do?
Well, I didn't go there to do anything other than hang out with my friends. And because I was not really into gaming at the time, we spent, I think, 90% of the time in the exhibit hall, which even in 1999 was gigantic. Like, you could walk around that thing all weekend and still not stop at every booth.
So, are you purchasing art then, and like comic books, or what was the main draw
Man.
for you since you weren't like a gamer at that time?
Well, let's see. Was that the first year? I think it was the second year, but everything at this point, especially all the way back then, kind of melds together. Do you remember a video game called Rubies of Eventide?
No, that surprisingly
Yeah,
sounds like something I should
probably
know, but
because I don't think it ever came out. But Gen Con in Milwaukee, they were promoting this game. It was supposed to be a lot like EverQuest. And I suppose I should say back in that time period, I played a lot of EverQuest. That's the thing that me and my friends were into. But so I don't want to spend too much time on this. Rubies of Eventide was giving out this this merch that was essentially it was a piece of cardboard that had a rubber band in the middle that somehow popped it into like not a D12. It was just a thing. So like if you could push it flat, and then you could set it down, but then it would pop back up because of the rubber band. And we figured out that if you put these in a stack, it would turn into a fountain of these things just shooting off. So we spent 2 days getting as many of these things as possible. And I think we got to like a stack of 100 at some point, and like just a bunch of people stood around and watched this thing just fountain for like 2 minutes. It was amazing.
That's awesome.
I really wish I still had one of those things. It's actually like a big memory of mine. But no, we mostly went around and like, and at the time in high school, like, you know, we were kids with computers and we played EverQuest, obviously. And that's when I was on dial-up. So, you know, damn kids today with their T1 connections. We were mostly just going around looking at anime. I think I went to a few anime like screenings. I think I tried to play a game of Star Wars, which was the living campaign called Sparks. And I showed up and I had like bought the ticket for it, which by the way was like a fucking ticket at the time that I can't remember how they printed them off at the time. It was so low tech. And I showed up and they're like, "Do you have a character?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what you mean." And honestly, in terms of that game, I still don't know what they mean. But I mean, vaguely. Now, I'm not sure if it was the first year. I think it might have been the first year. But at some point, me and my friends in high school got into the cosplay competition. And I know one of my friends from high school continued to do it, I think, all the way till Indianapolis, like 2007, maybe 2008. Like, so for almost a full 10 years that he did it. And like his mom was into making costumes and stuff. And so I'm not sure if it was the first year we went, but I cosplayed Darth Maul, and we didn't decide on doing cosplay competition until like, oh, maybe that was the second year, because me and my friend Steve, the guy who was into cosplaying, we choreographed an entire lightsaber fight. The problem was that, so Darth Maul had the double-ended lightsaber. When we choreographed it, Steve had the double-ended lightsaber, and I had the regular lightsaber. And at the last second, we were like, let's not do the lightsaber fight because we're going to have to trade on stage, and it's just not going to make sense. And I did continue to do cosplay all the way until I want to say the second year in Indy. The first year in Indy, I did Sauron from Lord of the Rings. I built this like elaborate metal helmet. And then the year after that, I did the Witch King. And that one turned out to be so shitty that I just didn't do the cosplay competition. I was just like, this looks like shit. I'm not even going to sign up.
It can be a hard costume to pull off.
Yeah.
You gotta.
Although now at Gen Con, the cosplay parade / competition is one of the big things that happens.
Oh yeah.
And like I don't go to it anymore, but I like to like when the cosplay parade is happening, I like to watch it just to see everything.
Yeah, I've been in it a couple of times. It's been.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's the parade. I
the parade.
I never went on to the competition itself.
Yeah. No, the competition, especially back in the late 90s, early 2000s, was really cool. People did some really interesting shit. And I say it's really cool then because that was before cosplay became a gigantic industry. So.
Yeah, I definitely had a lot of fun doing cosplay stuff. Like I did Joker one year and Jay and Silent Bob another year.
Now, wait, talk about that a little bit because I want people to know the most interesting part about that.
Oh, well, I guess the most interesting part about that is that My wife really wanted to go as Bob. So my life mate, my non-hetero life mate, became my hetero life mate.
Yeah.
For, during those, and to be honest, it's the way that Jay treats um, Silent Bob is it's not good for a relationship. I mean, we didn't create any problems by,
Yeah.
but
No, your now wife is very forgiving of you, I'll just say. And so anytime that you did speak in Jay's voice to her, as she was cosplaying Silent Bob was I mean, I think I felt uncomfortable a couple times, but yeah, no, she's great. And she is an amazing Silent Bob. And in fact, didn't you guys cosplay as Jay and Silent Bob to meet Jason Mewes at Wizard World one year?
yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was really
I was
awesome.
standing there.
Yep, we've
I
got.
was standing there and I was like, I kind of want to talk to him, but nah, I didn't pay the money.
Yeah, it was fun to just chat with him for just a really brief, of course, always just a brief moment of hey, that's really awesome. Like he thought it was a really cool idea, and it was really not something you see very often for sure.
Yeah, no, he was a super awesome guy. That year at Wizard World, we went to go see him at the panel, and then you guys paid for the autograph and got to meet him. That was pretty cool.
Yep. Yeah, and so
Uh,
my first experience with cons started in 2006. Or no, sorry, 2006. 2005, which was no, sorry, 2003. What am I? Why am
yeah,
I? I'm all
it's
over the
in
place
the
here.
it's written in the outline, dude.
Yeah, I'm really bad at reading right now. But yeah, so 2013, which was the first Gen Con Indianapolis. So you were at that one, correct?
Yes.
So the one thing I remember about this convention was that it was insane. Like the goodies that they gave out like Boba Fett leather jackets that year. What you did is you roll. Do you remember rolling the big dice, or did you do anything with the prize like super prize
Ooh,
giveaway that they did that year?
I don't think I did. Was that at the Wizards of the Coast booth?
Yeah, so the Wizards of the Coast, kind of had a huge celebration thing that they did that year. It was like the release of, I want to say it was like the release of third edition or just before the release of third edition. Um, when did
I
third?
mean, I remember the big D20, and I remember the sign that says "Do not roll the big D20."
Um, so they had the D20 for a few years. So there's a couple different times that they did this because the next year that I went back, and I don't think it was the very next year that I went back. It was the year after that. They had completely changed up the rules. Um, the second time that we went, the first time that we went, and I'm very sure that this was the first time that they held it, is that they didn't know what they were doing, and they had like this list of prizes on the wall. And what you did is you went around and you got stamps for doing all of the demoing of a game. And you would get all these stamps, and it would give you all these pluses to your character. It had like a little character thing on it, and you could go around. One of the things to do was to get a artist to draw you a really cool character portrait. So one of the big things that we did is we'd go around and talk to some of the D&D artists that were, sitting around and have them draw up really cool stuff for us, and that would give us good bonuses, and you could go around and hit up a ton of different things to get all of these different kind of bonuses, and then you would go up at after you filled out your character sheet to a certain extent, to what you felt was what you wanted for your bonuses. You could go turn it into them, and you could roll the d20. And when you rolled the d20, the first year I remember it being really chaotic because they had like all of these prizes and you had to roll the number in order to get the prize. So like day 1 I remember it being like they were like, okay, you have to roll the number, and whatever number you rolled you get a prize. And so you kind of like were looking, and the better prizes were the higher numbers, of course. So you were trying to get some of the better prizes and stuff.
Yeah.
But I remember that later on they were kind of going like, well, you can get whatever's below it or whatever you want, and there was so much kind of throwing around of what you could get from all of this, and we just went like hog wild on it like every single day. I think our group got like 3 leather jackets. I got a bunch of board games that were, like debuting at that time. I think there was like Risk 20, like 2077 or something like, or what, I can't
Yeah.
remember
Yeah.
the
Yeah. I
year that.
remember that.
But yeah, it's the futuristic Risk, and I got that like at the day that it kind of debuted, I believe, or it was pretty brand new at least at that point. And I remember that being a pretty expensive game, and there was a bunch of other stuff. The second year that they did it, I'm pretty sure there was a leather bound 3.5 or 3.0. So it
Yeah.
was
So
June 2003 that third edition 3.5 was released in June 2003. So
that
this
would have
was
been the two. Oh no. Yeah, that would have been just before Gen Con, of
Yep,
course.
that would have been just before Gen Con, in the first
2003.
Gen Con. So I think that maybe even the leather bound book might have been even during that Gen Con. That I know like the second year they had some other, like they did leather bound books for a couple of years. And but we like cleaned out. We found ways to like get, hit up as
Well,
many, hit up the ones that
can
are really
I
quick booths and stuff.
can I speculate that it was Chuck doing most of this?
Let's just say that Chuck came up with some high-level spells in order to accomplish insane feats. Because he got 2 of the leather jackets, one for himself and one for this girl that he was trying to impress, which never works out. I've never heard of anybody going to Gen Con and having like any kind of real relationship work out at the end of that. But man,
Yeah,
have we
we'll
tried.
leave the comments on that to another venue. Now Chuck started going to Gen Con way earlier than you guys, right?
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure they started in like 2000 or 1997, I want to say, something like that, because
Yeah, that sounds right.
they went even like let's see here, because Gen
And
Con's been
Chuck,
around. It's not always been at Milwaukee or Indianapolis, and I'm pretty sure they were at it
it was in
before.
Milwaukee after 1987, I think. 85.
Oh, so it's been in Milwaukee every year since then.
Yeah, it was in Milwaukee for a really long time. But yeah, I was just going to bring up Chuck, your friend from where you grew up in northern Wisconsin. He had gone to Gen Con uh, starting sometime in the late 90s, and he never missed one until I think it was 2019 when he didn't come with us.
Um,
Because he did miss 1 year, right?
I think he did miss 1 year. But yeah, he was hardcore, always going to
Yeah.
every con, and he was winning like because he would go there for the sword tournaments, and he was getting like first or second place in a lot of the duels that you can do at Gen Con, and he would play a lot of the card tournaments. I believe I don't think he did any
Oh, yeah.
Magic. But I know like a lot recently, but I don't know, like, I can't remember exactly what he was doing, but I believe there was a card game that he was playing as well at Gen Con in the past. But
Yeah.
recently he's been winning the, what is that, the Marvel
Legendary,
Legendary tournaments.
which is
Like he's been
the deck
winning them.
building.
Like, what is he, 2 years in a row now that he won?
I think he won 17 and 18, or at least he got top five. I want to say he got third place 1 year,
He definitely
but I
got
think that's
first place one year because I remember him getting that
First place,
trophy and our cars were all filled and we were like,
yeah, it
"What?
was
Why are you what? Chuck, no. You're going to have to we're just going to put
Chuck.
it on top of the car." Like
Yeah. But anyway, so that brings up to go back to the question: your early days at Gen Con in Indianapolis, starting in 2003? What was the stuff that you did?
So when I first started going to Gen Con, I had already pretty much, I was like 18 at the time, 17, 18, um, that year. No, so I'd been 17 that year. And I had been into gaming quite a bit, but we didn't really go for any games. Like we basically went to go party, um, and um, I did a lot of activities that made me um, wander the stage of AC/DC backstage after the show, after we'd got done talking to them, lost because I didn't know where I was. And so at the time, I shouldn't have been in this state, but I was, so Mike's Hard Lemonade's a bitch. And,
Yeah,
uh,
we've all ended up. Actually, I'm not. Should I tell that story? Let's leave that one out. I'm gonna
but
say.
but in any case, so we partied a lot. I know that um, after I was 21, I went to a lot of the. I believe White Wolf threw a lot of parties. I can't remember if I was 18 and I didn't drink during them, but I'm pretty sure I drank during them, so I must have been 21 or above. And they threw some ragers, like crazy
Wait,
ragers. Um,
did okay? So which that would have been 2004 or five. They bought a they rented a private club and had a party, and there were like cages and stuff. Were you at that one?
so I didn't turn 21 until um, that would be 2005. Wait a minute.
Okay, I was
So I would have been
2003.
19 when I was when the first time. Okay, so sorry, I don't know how to do math, and apparently numbers are screwing with me, and years and everything. But in any
No, this
case,
is the
so
content
I
that
was
people crave. Is people trying to figure out what age they were at different Gen Cons.
so I was 19 the first Gen Con because I'm born in 1984. So I was 19 in 2003.
Yeah,
So I was 21 would have been um, the 2004 I
it'd be five.
became. Yeah, so it had been 2005. So it was 2005, and yes, they did have cages.
I
And I
think
was
we
about
were both at that. I think we were both there.
yeah. So because yeah, I didn't go to 2004. I'm pretty sure I skipped. If I remember correctly, I was in Madison, and I didn't have any money at that time. But in 2005, I had a little bit more capability of going. Um, I was still dead broke, but yeah, I went to. They had people in cages. They had just. It was. So were you at the one where they did free alcohol? For
Okay,
like or
so
like it was it free beer or free alcohol? It was
so
something free that was got you drunk, and we got trashed,
so
and then
so
they
first of all,
stopped like at
I
midnight.
don't know. I don't know how we got in because I think there was some sort of invitation,
Yes,
but
but it was
uh,
really easy
some
to get a hold of, to be honest.
yeah. So I think there was somebody in our group that had like the invite. Um, but here's the story. Uh, I was with my high school friends at the time, and given how organized or slash unorganized our little gaming group is, my high school friends were like so much worse. So we didn't leave until like 10:30, 11. And then I mean this is before smartphones, and like one guy said he knew where it was. We literally walked like 2 miles in the wrong direction in
Oh,
Indianapolis. And finally, somebody was like, "We need to turn around." So we turned around, and it was like we finally got back to the street where we turned to go down that 2 mile stretch, and we walked 2 more blocks and got to the place. Walked in. I think we were there for like 20 minutes. It was, yeah. So
Yeah, so
that's the story of that.
you missed it, man. Like, cause I'm
Yeah, no,
pretty
I
sure
did.
that that was the year. Like, I was 21, um, and they threw this great. Like, it was. I remember it being like they said like it was open bar. You could have like there was I'm pretty sure there was vodka drinks and stuff like that because I wasn't a big beer drinker at all back then. I was more of a mixed drink, like
Oh yeah,
vodka with something. Um,
I think we
and
all were.
and so I drank like a whole shitload, and I remember it being like at about midnight they were like, okay, we can't do any more free drinks anymore. Like you guys have like tapped us out of our goodwill at this point. Um, and it was awesome though. Like it was one of those just real experiences that I'll barely remember, but I remember it being just one of the highlights of my life for sure. Because I
Yeah,
remember I'm pretty sure it was Chuck getting us in through like finding out about it and learning, because he wasn't really into World of Darkness, and I kind of was, but I don't think I was really into like digging into stuff, and I was just kind of at that time just wandering Gen Con, not really trying to figure out what to do at Gen Con, just being amazed by it and getting dragged along by my friends into stuff. So we did a lot of stuff of just like playing a lot of the um, open games and testing games and stuff. And we were at the beginning, the first two times that I went, it was all about that dice and throwing and going to ragers and cool stuff after the events. During the nighttime, like the AC/DC concert was some pretty crazy
yeah,
stuff. The first year that I was there.
yeah. I'll say that my first few years at Gen Con in Milwaukee were a little different because we were driving back and forth every day, because we lived so close.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, that does make
but
it a lot different. So that is one thing that I want to, speaking of which, I just want to touch base. If you're going to Gen Con or any other convention, my highly suggestion is to try as hard as you can to get a connected hotel. Um, it's not that you shouldn't go or it's really bad to be outside. It is just a different experience. And the way that I kind of want to highlight this is that so most of the time I was either connected or at least downtown. Where it's you can easily get to a building that will get you connected to the convention center. And Indianapolis is pretty good about this. Um, when you're downtown, you're part of the Gen Con experience pretty 24/7. Like there is really no downtime. You can create downtime if you want, but there's no scheduled downtime. You're always just there's always stuff going on. People are in and out of the hotel, at all times of night, causing ruckuses. Um, and it's just a free for all of activity and insanity that is just one solid experience. And I feel like when I stayed outside of the downtown area, it was a completely different. There was Gen Con time, and then there was the downtime after. Like you had a very distinct. As soon as you got outside of the city limits, you didn't want to go back. So you were probably just going to go
yeah,
and hang out, and not do a lot of the Gen Con activities that happen at night. I remember a lot of the times going back at like 9 o'clock, which would just be unthought of as to that's the time that you stopped doing Gen Con stuff. All the other past times that I went.
yeah. I will say this: I think one of the last times that I went with my high school friends, the the Hyatt, or I think it might have been a different hotel at the time, like owned by somebody else, but I think it's now the Hyatt, where it's got the big open space all the way up, and it's right across the street from the convention center. Um, it's the one with the subway in it.
Yeah.
We got a room in that hotel without any trouble whatsoever in like 2005. It was,
Yeah,
and
it
now
was.
it's impossible to get a hotel room.
Well, okay, so they changed up the way that they do um, their registration. So back in the day, what you would do is it was all about your internet connection. So Chuck, had figured out, well, not figured out, but he had the fastest internet connection. He had the highest level charter internet connection, and charter wasn't everywhere at that time. So he was part of the limited pool of people that had a gigabit Ethernet connection at that time, or what 1 megabit connection instead of 50
Yeah,
what 56k, wait a minute.
56K, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody else was on a 56k modem, and he had a 1 megabyte connection, or megabit, or whatever. um, and so what it was all about was everybody would log in at the same exact time on their website and crash the website. And then everybody would just keep on trying until you got something, right? And so it's just this mad rush of destroying their website for 1 day out of the year, and then you got what you got. So there, I mean, because of the chaos, because of Gen Con in the beginning, actually, too, was what, like 30, 40, 50,000 people in the beginning, and now it's at
Uh,
100,000?
no, it's now maxing out at 50. Back when they switched to Indianapolis, it was between 20 and 30. So
Um,
yeah, you're probably thinking about later years, maybe just
oh, no, what
into the
I'm saying right
2010s a little
now
bit.
is, yeah, today we're at
Oh,
100,000
today, yeah.
people. Um, and
Yeah, but I
Gen
think the
Con,
the last time I got a hotel, like I called my friends and I said, "Hey, I got a hotel. Let's go to Gen Con." I think was like 2004 or 5 or 6, and I just got a hotel room. It was there
yeah.
were people staying there, like, a family who just booked a hotel room so their kids could play in a pool. Just they were just staying at that hotel at the same time. Like didn't put a dent in indie when they started there. Now it's all the way out to the outskirts.
However, the first year, do you remember the great food shortage of the first year?
I do not.
Wow, because that was a huge thing. I don't know. We hit up Steak and Shake, and all of the like Subway downtown restaurant stuff like that, during the first year of Gen Con, and it was bad. From our assessment of what we learned was that nobody told the food industry that gamers were coming to Indianapolis in the first year.
Yeah.
That nobody knew what Gen Con was. Nobody cared about Gen Con, and no food restaurant was prepared for the there was not only was there food shortages, there was staff shortages that were not even close to what you're seeing now. We still have they shut down Steak and Shake, I believe, in 2000 and what was it, 2019, that they didn't do late night Steak and Shake, I believe, or something like that. We were on the outskirts, I believe, on that year, so we
Oh
didn't.
yeah, that I think that last year, where are we? It's hard to remember,
It's hard to
isn't it?
remember. But
Yeah.
in any case, I just remember it
Okay.
being a huge food shortage and then like staff shortage. Like nobody expected Steak and Shake normally on a Friday night, on a Thursday night, or actually it's Wednesday when we arrive. On a normal Wednesday night, they just don't have the staff ready for it. So they were calling in favors. They had nothing on the menu. It was insane.
I don't know.
I'm really
Honestly, at this point, somebody in the gaming community should set up a GoFundMe for the employees of Steak and Shake that work that weekend. Just, just like, because it is just so fucking bad. Like, I'm just trying to think of some stories. Yeah, and I don't want to tell them. So I think we should transition to uh, later conventions and going to other ones. But I want to tell this one last story about my final years at Gen Con. because I don't think I've even told you this story. Probably because it's slightly embarrassing. Um, anyway, so I was going with my high school friends every year, and the last two guys that continued to go uh, at some point, because I was in Madison going to college, and everybody else was off doing their own thing. We kind of lost touch, and so I think it was either it must have been 2006 where this is what I did. I had met a new guy in Madison, and I I was able to get in contact with one of my high school friends and say, "Hey, if I can make it to Gen Con, can I stay in your hotel room and get a ride back?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's fine, all good." And so I got a ride from somebody that I had met in Madison who continues to go to Gen Con every year. So that was like, let's say 2006. 2007, I think I was in a little bit of a different place in my life. And here was my plan. I'm trying to get in contact with my friend from high school, the one that does the cosplaying stuff. But I can't get in contact with him. But I know he's going to be there. So I fill up a duffel bag with the things that I need to go to Gen Con, and I get a bus. I get an overnight bus to Indianapolis, where I have to be at the bus station in Chicago overnight for 3 hours. I'm not going to tell the story that happened at the bus station, but I got to Indianapolis that next morning. I walked to Gen Con. I got one of those little lockers where you put the quarters in and you get the key. And then I walked around hoping to find my high school friends that I knew were there. Within an hour, I found them. And I said, "Hey, guys, can I stay in your hotel room tonight?" And they said yes.
Well, it sounds
It
like that
worked out.
worked out
It
very
it
well.
definitely worked out. But man, the faith that I put, like the willingness that I had at that time to just sleep under a table was amazing.
Yeah, now it's so nice that you can just buy or get a room somewhere.
Oh yeah, I can.
Get a taxi, something. Get an
I
Uber
got
to where
fucking money
somewhere
now.
else. Yeah, it's
All
crazy
right.
not being
So,
in your 20s.
do you want to talk about any of the conventions that you went to in between 2007 and 2013? 2013 being when we met each other in Madison, and I went to Gen Con with you guys for the first time.
No, it's just that I took a little bit of a break after 2005 or 2006, somewhere around there, and then started back up, I believe, in 2011 ish, and then
Oh,
have
okay.
been going ever since then. Um,
Yeah,
we
with
have
me.
like a little Gen Con group that we have been part of ever since. We called it the Marshfield Crew, and now um, now we've moved. A lot of us has moved to Madison, but there's still some of us that live in different parts of different areas. So we all kind of come together and go to Gen Con,
Yeah,
and
and
try to make it every year. And some of us have been really good about it, and some of us have we've
yeah, and I
lost
guess
souls over the years.
in addition to the Marshfield crew, we have now added your wife, uh, Amber, and me.
Yep. Yep, and then Matt, a long time ago, left the Marshfield crew, but yeah, and went to become his own crew that lives somewhere, and but still goes with us, which is cool. Like, and we so it's interesting how we've
Oh,
all kind of moved off different places or added
yeah,
people in.
but he was still part of the original Marshfield crew.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah, so yeah, nothing immediate that comes to mind. Those were more relaxed. A lot of convention going for me up until we started running games was really kind of just relaxed. And I think the first year that I went with you was the first year that I started hitting up LARPs and stuff like that. I don't think I even, man, I didn't do
Oh,
it with
really?
you, but I was doing it with just by myself to a certain degree. And
Yeah, I think I might have like visited you at one of the LARPs, but yeah, so 2013 is when I went back to Gen Con and got back into L5R, which is Legend of the Five Rings, and there's a living campaign called Heroes of Rokugan, which did a 5-year cycle, and just kind of to get back to it, to previous conventions, I had played a character in the previous 2 cycles. One at Gen Con Milwaukee, and then another one in Gen Con Indianapolis. And in fact, I think I was technically there for the very end of the second 5-year cycle. And so when I got back into it, I told people that, and they were like, "I don't remember you." I was like, "Yeah, that's probably because I was only at like 3 or 4 games that one year." But yeah, it was a game that I had been into previously, so I got back into it. And the reason I bring it up is because the topic of this episode is personal convention history. So at Gen Con 2013, I went to a bunch of these L5R games, and then on Saturday night is when they do their main what they call interactive, which is a LARP, but maybe not so stringent. Like you don't have to be in character all the time. Nobody's being super emotional about shit. It's more mechanical things happening. I had more discussions during the interactive about the spirit of Bushido and like what is the correct way to manifest the correct behavior of a samurai. I had more discussions about that than the actual plot that was happening. So that was cool. But at the end of that interactive, this one guy, everybody was doing their like end of night, hey, thanks for the GMing and thanks for everybody showing up. This one guy got up on a chair and he said, "Hey, this is a really great game. The people that play it are really awesome. You should play more of it. We also run these games at Origins, and there are 2 conventions in Kansas City, one in December and one in March. One is, I think, December or November is like the Kansas City Game Fair, and then the one in March is just L5R, just this group called Weekend in Rokugan. So I was at a certain point in my life where I decided I'm going to go to all of those. I have the money, I have the time, I'm just going to do it. So let me just pull this out real quick. This is my character from that campaign. So I started in 2013. These are all. Wait, here we go. Not here. Okay, these are all the modules that I played. I
that's
played
awesome.
like 50 modules. Okay, and these are all in sleeves and shit. And so I had to go to the ones that I don't even have in sleeves to figure out that I did go to Kansas City in the winter of 2013, just after that Gen Con, and I went for the subsequent 3 years after that. And I stopped going because we started doing our World of Darkness shit. But yeah, so that's 3 years of going to an extra convention, 2 extra conventions every year, and then Origins as well, which I still go to, because, well, I just like it. It's in Columbus, Ohio, and a friend of mine lives in Cleveland. I get to drive down on Tuesday, stay with him, and so I did that a couple years, and then he started coming with me to that convention, which is amazing because I love hanging out with that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, so then after that, I mean, we started doing. I guess the next kind of phase really is our World of Darkness um, Gen Con event that we started running. But I also did run those at Midwinter, um, Origins, and Gamehole Con and that was like right around 2018, I think, just at towards the end, just before we ended the and I think the Gamehole Con one was I ran one after we had completely finished the game in 2018, and those smaller conventions are a lot of fun. Like Gamehole Con is in Madison, in a much smaller kind of venue for gaming, but I had I think like I just ran the mage portion of Madison Under Siege year two, and I think I had like 7 or 8 people that signed up for that game, um, and it was interesting to see. There was a lot of interest in the World of Darkness in Madison, for sure.
Well, there must have been a different year then. It must have been the end of 17, because there was one where we set it up for a multi-table, and then like not enough people showed up, so I played at the vampire table.
Oh yeah, there was a year that it was like a couple of years I believe before that, because I believe that that was like one of our um like was that like after the first year, I would think.
It might have been, yeah.
But yeah, that was that. Yeah, that one we did. It was more of a LARP kind of request that we did, and we had asked for 40 people. And one of the interesting things I find about World of Darkness is that it seems like it does seem to be harder to get people um, that are not already involved in something to come to a bigger 40-person like LARP. That kind of request is harder to pull off than asking for 6 to 10 people to show up for one table, but then asking for multiple tables of that. Tabletop seems to have a strong draw from for the World of Darkness from people that are not um, into the World of Darkness, just kind of want to check it out. Whereas LARP seems to be more, you're going to have to get people, or you get a lot more people who are already involved in the World of Darkness, and either or they're taking their leap for the first time type thing. But I don't know. I find it a lot harder to get LARPers to play in games than it is to get tabletoppers. And you seem to get a lot more new people when you play tabletop, and when I feel like LARPers is just more of a community that already exists and they're already doing their thing.
Yeah. And we've always listed our uh, World Madison Under Siege games as tabletop. And I think one of the reasons we were as successful as we were was because we got tabletop players and we got people who were interested in checking out tabletop. And it's really easy, especially in the system that we created, to just be like, okay, we're at a tabletop. Now go do this thing. And then they come back from doing that thing, and then we reveal like, oh, you just LARPed. And they're like, oh, that's LARPing? And you're like, yeah, that's LARPing. It's not scary.
Well, I mean, yeah, we just do LARPing at the table. Basically, it's a lot of what we do, even when we're not doing large super table stuff. With lots of people. Like when we only have 10 people, it's just a lot of LARPing at the table, basically going into character actually, and um, and the only main thing that we keep to the tried and true is that we have all the tabletop rules and everything. And to be honest, I'm more into the even if I did a LARP, I would probably do a LARP that used tabletop rules instead of LARP rules anyways. And yes, you're just going to have to bring the bag of dice with you when you're walking around, and you can roll it on the ground. Or the beautiful thing in the 21st century that we live in, all of us have dice rollers on our phone. So you can resolve a lot of that stuff using tabletop rules and not have it be a big hindrance on the time, which is what a lot of people. I feel like the idea behind LARP rules is that it's quick, dirty, and easy, um, and allows you to progress the story as quickly as possible using rules, whereas tabletop takes a little bit more time and there's a little bit more mechanical um, consumption of play that happens.
Yeah. I don't really have much to say
But yeah,
about that. Other than the main aspect of LARP that I kind of think is the thing that tabletop players that we kind of thrust upon the tabletop players was the you now get to get up and knowing what you know and having the goals that you have. You need to go talk to people. You need to go and approach people. So when you say like LARPing at the table, like that's I would consider that just tabletop role playing. But when we told people like, okay, this
yeah,
is what you need to do, and people had to stand up and like actually approach somebody and say, I am this character. Whereas when you like what was it? The LARPs that you were in that kind of inspired you to create that project. Uh those were this is just a LARP all the time. The problem was that like people just didn't know what they were supposed to do, which is honestly just a problem with the LARP design.
I mean, and a lot of people did know what to do. My whole thing was more. It wasn't that I thought that it was that there were problems necessarily with the LARP as much as it was I just wanted to do tabletop with more LARPing involved, and have
Yeah,
the concept of when I saw multiple werewolves that were sitting at a table just talking the whole time, um, I was like, I can bring more of the aspects of LARP into tabletop, and I would say that one eventually it turned into the multi-table type concept, but the whole basis of it was more of the I want people to play leadership, and what I found was the concept that really set us apart was playing leadership more than anything, because that's where you all of a sudden have to do more like in character role playing and stuff like that. When you're sitting at a table and everybody's playing Primogen members or members of some kind of council or whatever, and you're all playing politics with each other in character, it becomes way more like a LARP than what you're going to see in any D&D or even our Technogate game, because you're immediately dropping into politics and talking in character to each other in this council meeting that's going to be the big chunk of the game actually. And um,
yeah, yeah,
it was something that I found to be really inspiring. And so I get what you're saying, that when we told players that you can get up and go talk to other tables if you want, and you had stuff on your character sheet about other tables, that's really what made us more of a TARP, a tabletop action role playing game that's um, and very similar to LARP, added a lot of those LARPing
yeah,
elements, but the whole inspiration came really from the fact that I really wanted people to drop into their character and how to, and just how to LARP at a table. And it was like, oh, you just have them all play leadership that come to a meeting that they have to play out um, at this event. And
yeah,
it definitely worked out really well, and it's something that I plan on continuing to do, not necessarily in the sense of maybe going the super big games, but I definitely want to continue the concept of playing games where you are handed a powerful character, and everybody that's sitting at the table with you are all powerful characters, and you're there doing some politicking and
yeah.
um, dealing with the fact that you guys run a city or whatever.
Yeah. So strangely enough, talking about it again, I could see us doing it again. I don't think we would do the 40-person 10-hour games though. I think we would probably not do that. Um,
No, I mean I wouldn't
but
do 10
the
hours ever in one sitting. But I could see doing a large game if we could do it with like a 4 hour or 5 hour, one shot type kind of stuff.
Yeah,
And just doing
I think I
LARPs
would
in
be up for that
general and
again.
stuff.
I think I would be up for a 40-person like 6-hour game. We'd have to get the GMs for it, but so going back to conventions, because this is a part of our experience, is so just quickly, can you talk about uh, trying to explain to the event organizers at Gen Con what the hell our event was?
Yeah, so that was an interesting experience every year, trying to explain for
Like,
three
what do you
years
want to
that we
do?
did this. And every year we had to go back and forth on it. And it was something that, you know, I feel bad because I'm brand new. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I didn't know exactly how to explain what was kind of going on. And there's a lot of there's the event organizers are trying to deal with a lot of different stuff, and so they're
Oh yeah.
skim reading your emails and stuff like that, and just trying to get the sense of what you're trying to do. And most people are just sending in simple requests. So we had to ask for, we want 4 tables, 1 room. Why does it need to be in its room by itself? Why does it seem like it's a LARP, but it's tabletop rules? Why are all these games needing to be at the same exact time? And it was an interesting experience that eventually worked out really well. I mean, our first year we were in a really small room that was too small for us, I think. But I feel like the second and third year we had fairly decent rooms that I was fairly happy
Oh,
with.
see, I disagree. I liked the room the first year. The second year we had that long room.
The long room was a little weird.
I didn't like the long room mainly because the hunter table was at the opposite end from the vampire table, which is appropriate, but made it a bit difficult. Uh, the third year, I loved that room, except for how far away it was, and it might have actually been too big. Man, it was loud in there, like you could not hear people.
Yeah, that
It
was
was just weird.
yeah. But yeah, in any case, though, yeah, it was a lot of back and forth on trying to explain the concept of what we were doing, and
And to their credit, Gen Con always figured it out in the end. Like
absolutely,
we got the appropriate time, we got the appropriate listing, we got the a relatively appropriate room. Uh, like kudos to Gen Con
yeah,
for dealing with our shit.
yep. Yeah, no, and that's something that next time that we do it, we're gonna come at it in maybe a little bit of a different angle if we do go big. But I'm gonna
We should
definitely um,
we should reach out to that guy and be like, "Hey, you want to be on a podcast so you could bitch about all the event organizers at Gen Con for like an hour?"
but yeah,
With
so
all the crazy requests.
it's an interesting process for sure. And if you're doing
Okay.
something weird and wonky, I'm looking forward to doing some more regular stuff for a couple of years before we jump back into anything super big. Because I feel the one big thing that was the roughest on doing the 40-person game was more of the getting 4 GMs to work together for a year on a
Yeah.
project, and and that's something that I think moving forward I want to make sure that I have, you know, a 100% solid plan before we even start submitting. Because what we did a lot was we would submit our ideas and then we'd start working on them. And I think the the plan moving forward for me submitting events is that I'm going to have the work at least a good chunk of it done before I even get to the point of submitting it, or it's going to be something I'm reusing from years past and just altering. Um, and Technogate, I think I'm going to definitely be running moving forward here, and that's something that I think, um, you know, I've already got a lot of concepts and work already done on that, and should be able to bring it into something that can be playable and one-shottable for new people to enjoy.
Now, see, what we need to do is add a fifth faction to the Gahara Pact. And so now it's a 50-player 10-hour game. And we need 5 GMs. Yeah, okay. It's already done.
Yeah,
Decided.
yeah.
Anyway, so we're going pretty long, but I do want to, let's see. So the main 2 that we've gone to together that I want to talk about real quick are Origins and Midwinter. And you know what? Let's skip Origins. Let's just go to Midwinter, because I think that's the more interesting one. That if people out there who are actually listening to this, or have we talked about Midwinter before on this?
We
I think
did
we have.
do our remembering, or we did so many LARPs. I believe it's like our second podcast that we kind of went through and talked about Midwinter and what we did that year. And all the different LARPs that we hit up. But I just want to emphasize that I really felt like the going around in all of it. We hit up a lot of LARPs, but we also got to talk with a lot of the game creators and like Onyx Path and all of the different kind of seminars that we sat in on. The community seems a lot more tight and smaller at Midwinter, and it felt more like you could get involved with the people that are there than all the other cons. It kind of just seems like there's more of a disconnect between the people that are running it and the people that are there for the event because they're being paid to be there, or running their events or whatever. And then there's um, at Midwinter, it just seemed like there was more ability for you to actually connect with people. And I don't know, maybe I'm wrong
Yeah.
on that, but
Midwinter, I think, was a couple hundred people, maybe upwards of 500, if you really kind of stretched it to just the kind of people were there for maybe one day. But like, I remember going to it the first day, that first year, and we went to that panel, and I can't remember what the panel was, but it was just the woman who runs Midwinter is just there and just talking to people.
yeah, that was an
And
interesting where they
yeah,
kind of, it was like an introduction, like, hey, everybody that's trying to do something here, why don't we all meet up and have like a little talk about about what you're
yeah.
doing and who
And
you are and why you're at Midwinter. And it was really cool just to see people pop up and or that were there, and they we introduced ourselves to a few people, and I'm looking forward to doing that more and more as we see what happens with conventions moving forward in the future. But um, I have a lot of hope that conventions will be back at some point.
yeah. Well, let's speculate it on it just for a second. I have a feeling that sometime in the fall is going to be it. So I don't think Gen Con's going to happen this year. I'm pretty sure Midwinter isn't happening.
Yeah, I think that there's a high possibility that this year might be another year where it might be a lot of virtual stuff. Um, and I plan on this year because in 2020 I did skip out on all the conventions basically. But I'm signed up for GaryCon. I'm definitely gonna still do whatever's going on at Gen Con. I plan to run. My thing is I'm fine with it being virtual, um, as long as I can still run events. And so I just have to learn how I'm able to run what it's going to take to run events for conventions virtually, and that's something I haven't really looked into yet. But I can't imagine it's going to take me as it's going to be similar to being in person. It just is going to be virtual. So I plan on still going and trying to run events. Gen Con is held off on their event registration for GMs to set up their events, and they're kind of seeing what's going on here. But as soon as they put out their stuff for running events, I'm whether it's virtual or in person, and if it's in person, as long as everything seems safe, I plan on running events, and I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like to be virtual. But I think that this year is going to be a strongly virtual, and I think Midwinter um, 2022 is going to be when I think things will be probably full bore back to normal with conventions. And that's if everything
Yeah.
goes,
Yeah, we'll
okay.
definitely have to see. So I just looked it up. So Midwinter was supposed to be over the weekend of Friday the 8th to Sunday the 10th. So that would have been like 2 weekends ago. And it got canceled back in November.
Mm-hmm.
They basically just said it's not possible based on current restrictions. I hope they were also thinking about, even with following the restrictions, people would still get sick. And like you said, I think Gen Con is basically just trying to hold out to the last second to cancel.
Yeah, I mean, because you never know. Maybe miracles happen and everything gets really good by summer. If everything gets rolled out properly, you never know. But in any case, yeah, I think that's a good point for us to kind of wrap up here, and do some shout outs here. Before we do that, though, just wanted to let you all know that we are running Technogate still. Technogate is going to be changing a little bit. We're going to be calling it Technogate 1999. We're kind of doing a little bit of a fresh start with a new series that's kind of going to be using all the stuff that the characters from the Technogate, season 0 and season 1 that we already have out and published, and we're going to be moving that to more of an episodic, less super mega story that's kind of happening in the background, and going very, very strongly episodic and character driven stories to a certain degree, as well as episodes that focus on checking out different aspects of the Umbra and different places in the Umbra. Um, we will have like a small little um, arc plot that we will have kind of going on, but I want to focus as much as possible on making Technogate as episodic as possible, so that people can kind of jump in at any time, and if they see oh, that's the Abyss episode, let me go check out the Abyss episode, or that's the episode on um, you know uh, any kind of different aspects of the different umbral realms that exist out there, and
Yeah, so more like Star Trek: The Next Generation.
more like Star Trek: The Next Generation, um, with a light epic or arc plot that kind of is going on each season. There was an arc plot with the Borg, and the arc plot with the admirals that were all aliens or something like that. But it never really in every episode. You could skip any episode and you can kind of end up but there's two-parters, or three-parters that we'll probably be still doing, where you'll want to watch those in succession, of course.
Yeah, and at some point, Phaedra will grow a beard on someone. And that's when we know that we've hit our stride, and we've got 8 seasons ahead of us of greatness.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So I also just want to give some shout outs here to podcasts that have really inspired us, like Midnight Express, Utility Muffin Labs, Darker Days Radios, Gehenna Gaming. These are all some really great things you can check out there. Also want to definitely give a big shout out to the game makers, Onyx Pass and White Wolf. If you want to get a lot of really good books that are created by these game makers, you can go to DriveThruRPG. They have some really cool um, print-on-demand books that you can get for quite a bit of pretty much. Do they have? I don't think they have Dungeons and Dragons, do they? Or do they?
Uh, no,
Oh,
no, that's all through the Wizards.
yeah, that's all
That's through the
Wizards that
Wizards
goes.
website.
But they have
Yeah,
like all the World of Darkness
Wizards has warehouses full of stuff.
that they must sell.
DriveThruRPG has contracts with
Smaller.
on-demand printers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there's cool things you can kind of check out are like the books for Seventh Age, created by Rick Hines. Also the Red Opera RPG, a Dungeons and
Friend
Dragons.
of the show, Rick Hines.
What's?
Friend of the show, Rick Hines.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I listen to a lot of podcasts. People say friend of the show
Friend
a
of
lot.
the show. Oh, that's.
He's a friend of the show.
And definitely check out like GaryCon, Midwinter, Origins, Gen Con, and Gamehole Con conventions. We plan on trying to hit up all of these, whether it's virtual or in person this year. And if you enjoy the show, feel free to follow and like our podcast. You can also check us out on Twitch, YouTube. We're on Instagram and Twitter. And
what's your Twitter?
Twitter is I think just Golden Age Stories. Let's see.
I looked it up. It's not there.
Let's see here. We are at Golden Age.
Golden Age.
Yep. At Golden Age for Twitter.
Not Golden Age Stories.
Yeah, but that's
Okay.
the name, I guess.
I suppose they could search Twitter Golden Age Stories. That would work.
Yeah, if you pull up Golden Age, if you just search Golden Age Stories, it pulls us up. But anyways, yeah. Next week, do we have any specific plan for next week? I can't remember.
Wait, I thought you had a thing.
No. So we don't have an idea of what we're going to be doing next week. But we will
tweet at us.
Tweet at us if you have any ideas, anything that you want us to do an episode on. Definitely let us know.
We sound smart, but every week we're like, what the hell are we going to talk about?
We're just like, yeah.
At some point, we're going to have to just start doing book reviews, and you do not want that, because I don't like to read.
All right. Well, this is Frozen Fallout signing off.
And this is Moto Rory reminding you that Gul'dan is spelled Guldan.
Ah, yes. Gul, Gul'dan. Good night.
Gul'dan.